The 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead was a movie that was made quite a long time before remakes became a dirty word, and you couldn't exactly blame a 14-year-old kid like me for having a different, more charitable view of remakes than what I do nowadays. I mean, all I had to draw on really was the Thing remake, the Fly remake, and the Blob remake. So after a pretty positive pedigree like those, I was really ready and waiting for Night of the Living Dead 1990 to come out. And I remember reading about it in Fangoria in eager anticipation over many months. That's what you did back in the day before the internet. And then finally a solitary VHS copy appeared on the video shelves, and I snapped it up in no short order. So 1990's remake didn't just get a lot of good grace because we had yet to be subjected to scores of subpar cash grab remakes like 1998's Psycho, 2006's Wicker Man, and 2010's Nightmare on Elm Street, which was particularly bad. George A. Romero was involved, along with other Romero zombie alumni like Tom Savini, who was in the director's chair, so we trusted all of these people. So the 1990 remake follows most of the same beats as the 1968 original, with the exception of the Barbara character, of course. In this adaptation, Barbara is played by actress and stuntwoman Patricia Tallman, and being made just a few years after Aliens, it isn't a shock or a spoiler or a surprise to reveal that this Barbara is a bit closer to Ripley than Judith O'Dea. And other cast members of Night of the Living Dead 1990 include Tom Tolles from Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer as Harry Cooper. We have the Candyman himself, Tony Todd, as Ben. And we have Chop Top, Bill Moseley as Johnny. And we have Bill Butler, who was pretty much just in Leatherface at the time, as Tom. So as a kid, I enjoyed Night of the Living Dead 1990 a lot, probably as much as the original. I reckon the special effects from Optic Nerve, aka John Vulick and Everett Burrell, were pretty solid, pretty groundbreaking to say the least. These all looked like recently deceased bodies that got up and started walking. And they all had pretty distinctive looks to them, unlike a lot of other zombie movies, probably with the exception of Return of the Living Dead. And I reckon this movie would actually make a pretty good double bill with Zack Snyder's 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake. They'd synchronise pretty well with each other. And Dawn of the Dead remake, of course, has one of the most kick-ass opening credit sequences this side of Young Guns, courtesy of Johnny Cash's When the Man Comes Around. Just avoid making it a bit of a triple feature with any of those dreadful Day of the Dead remakes. They were truly awful and shouldn't be visited at any cost. So that, my friends, is 1990's Night of the Living Dead remake, a movie from back in time when remakes weren't a dirty word. I completely understand why die-hard fans of the original might avoid this one like the plague, but it is worth checking out if you haven't seen it. It does have its heart in the right place, and as an adult, while it isn't in the same league as the 1968 original, which I kind of thought it was as a kid, it does have a right to exist, and it's interesting, and it has a reason to exist. That reason was giving a bit of cash back to the original investors, the guys in Image 10 that got ripped off when the original 1968 Night of the Living Dead was caught up in rights issues. And it is worth a revisit for those of us who remember when remakes were an anomaly rather than a lazy money printer for Hollywood. Back in the day, if you did see a remake in 1990 or before, and maybe a little after that, generally it was because a filmmaker had a passion for the original and wanted to give their own take on it. And unfortunately now, as is often the case, it is just a lazy money printing exercise. There's no passion to it, no point to it. It's just a prefabricated Hollywood process to wring out the last vestiges of life from an intellectual property, I guess. And that's all pretty sad. So it'd be nice to go back to the time when remakes were less cynical, were a little more inspired, like Night of the Living Dead 1990, or The Thing from 1982, or The Fly from 1986, or the Blob remake. Can't remember which year that was, but it was the late 80s from memory. And all those movies are worth checking out if you are if you are dead against remakes in any way, shape, or form. They may restore your faith in filmmaking humanity, which is a little tough these days. And it really has gotten beyond the joke these days. There's a I Know What You Did Last Summer remake floating around, and that looked that similar to the original. I assumed that they'd just remastered the original and re-released it in theatres, but alas, no, it was a carbon copy remake. And that's what I really don't understand about remakes a lot of the time. The studios own the original intellectual properties, so it feels like it'd make more sense to spend a tenth of the money and scrub up the original print and do a wide cinema release, the same way they did with Jaws for the 50th anniversary. I mean, it's not an accident the 50th anniversary release of Jaws in theatres basically outgrossed most of its contemporaries that were premiering at the same time. And it would be a good policy for Hollywood to do this rather than just churning out these lazy remakes. So that is Night of the Living Dead 1990. It's a movie that still does deserve to be part of George Romero's zombie universe. As I said, it was made by George Romero alumni, people like Tom Savini, of course, and a lot of the original Image 10 group that bankrolled 1968's Night of the Living Dead. And as I said, it'd probably make a pretty cool double bill with the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake, which in its own right was quite different to the 1978 classic. So it itself really was superior to a lot of remakes, and it had running zombies as opposed to shuffling zombies. So that's all I've got for today. If this is your first time visiting the channel, hope you enjoyed this look at Night of the Living Dead 1990. And please let me know how my YouTube driving's going by liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. It all helps the channel. And I hope to see you next time. I'm off to enjoy the rest of my evening in this nice place, and I hope you do too. See you next time.